Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of High Energy Keto Girl. And today's guest is Dr. Pat Boulogne, who is the author of the amazing book, Why Are You Sick, Fat, and Tired? Dr. Pat is also a chiropractor and a acupuncturist and a certified functional medicine practitioner. She has helped thousands over the last 35 years stop adapting their lifestyle to pain and chronic problems by focusing on the whole person. So let's go and say hello to Dr. Pat. Hey everyone, welcome to High Energy Keto Girl, a podcast helping women to age stronger because it is never too late to get fit, be strong, and feel sexy. I'm your host, Tracy Gluhide, health coach and personal trainer and founder of highenergygirl.com. Each week, we will either have a guest interview, which will provide you encouragement or an actionable tip to help you age stronger, or I will do a solo episode. Please also join our awesome Facebook group called High Energy Girls, and I'm looking forward to see you on the inside of that group and hope you enjoy today's show. Create Whole Body Wellness, a powerful new advancement in energy medicine. Increase your energy, empower your life. I am super excited to announce that I am now a bioenergetics practitioner. And many people are like, well, what is bioenergetics? So imagine that our body is controlled by our energy field, and these fields get distortions and blockages, which create physical and emotional symptoms. So how do we get energy blockages? From stress, toxins, EMFs, emotional traumas, physical scars, and physical traumas. All you need to do is decode the human body field to get to the root cause and restore your energy for life. For more information, head on over to the blog at highenergygirl.com/bioenergetics with an X. That's BIOENERGETIX, and heal your energy for life. Hey, Dr. Pat, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
I am so happy to be here. Thank you so much, Tracy.
This only took us a year.
Maybe a little bit more, but somewhere around that, to actually connect and do this. We've been talking about it for quite a while.
I know. It's so exciting. So for the listeners that don't yet know you, please let us know a little bit about yourself.
Well, my background is that I'm a chiropractor. That's my first training. And then I went to acupuncture school, and I have certification in a bunch of stuff, like functional medicine and lifestyle medicine. I also have a background in acupuncture, so I'm an acupuncture physician. So I've been able to funnel all that information into one kind of glob of information so that I have more tools to help people go from point A to point Z in the shortest period of time.
Cool. What are some tools like that we can chat about now? I mean, with everything going on in the world, I have a feeling that you have a lot of wisdom inside of you that are going to help people just like kind of calm the heck down, So,
well, I think approaching, I always say to people when stuff hits the fan, when you've got big stuff going on, you've got to stop, take a deep breath, and go back to basics. And so going back to basics gives you the look, so you can look at your foundation, especially your health right now, and look to see where the cracks are at and fix those cracks. And it's so important always to have a good immune system, but health never, ever, ever goes out of fashion. I mean, it just doesn't. And when we lose it is when people a lot of times start to pay attention to it. Mm-hmm. So having, if you have a very strong immune system and you're in a group of people, it's just like your susceptibility is lessened because of how well you've been taking care of yourself. And that's a gift to be able to do that. And sometimes it's difficult to put those pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah, and I totally hear what you're saying. And that's what I've been saying for a long time is when you have a strong immune system, you're fighting viruses and bacterias and even cancer cells.
Parasites,
Parasites,
the whole thing, because the I wrote a book, right? And it became a bestseller, which is called Why Are You Sick, Fat, and Tired? And in that book, it shows people where their weakest link is, And it shows people where their strongest link is. So you know where to funnel your time, money, and energy, and find out, where, and what can I do? What's my next step? And then some of it will become very apparent if somebody takes the time to do those quizzes. If you apply that to today's day and time, it's really important to get that health snapshot so that you know where you stand. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. And so, it's just like we all know that drinking water is good for you, but drinking water and you put lemon in it, it helps you digest your food better. It brings up the right kind of acid. It's a diuretic, so it's good for people who want to lose weight. There's little health hacks that go along with like each section of the body. So the sections of the body are called systems. And in the systems, I equate that to like a Swiss watch. Because when all the components are working and they all communicate with each other, so you can't just treat like the cardiovascular system and not have it affect your digestive system, and that we all know now that heart disease is related to diabetes and related to Alzheimer's. I mean, there's a connection with all that inflammation. So the question is like, how do people get sick in the first place? And the inflammation starts either from a trauma that doesn't get fixed. Like, for instance, the birthing process, which is like 9 out of 10 people who go through the birthing process have an issue with their neck because they've had some injury. And if it's never been taken care of, it sits there and it takes a while to fester. It doesn't happen overnight. And then you have, toxins. We all know about toxins. Look at the vaccines. You look at, between, the foods that we eat, the air that we breathe, and the water we drink. And then our thoughts are a big thing because they can undo, so people panicking right now are making their bodies, more stressful and more susceptible to something, than if they took control of it and just like centered themselves, meditated, do, whatever it is they need to do to functionally anchor themselves. I sometimes joke with women and say, just put red nail polish on. It'll anchor you. It just is, and because it's a very grounding color, if you're looking at color therapy type things.
Red
and
for the root chakra.
But, yeah. It's just like it ties you down someplace. So it makes you, so you're not it's all over the place. And then you have girlfriends, and so, that, coalescing together with one of your friends that are knowledgeable and things like that are helpful to help somebody funnel and go in a specific direction, and remain calm.
So is your book broken down into all the body systems? Like, so what portion of the body do you like to work on first, or is it just individual based on where their crack is of their foundation?
Well, there's 11. How to answer the questions is first off, you answer them in present time. And there's 11 organ systems. And the organ systems start out with the gut. And those have subcategories of function. Then the liver, endocrine system, the heart, the brain, musculoskeletal, endocrine. Also for women, all women issues. Men have their own section. That's why there's 12 chapters, 11 sections. And so what happens is when someone answers those questions, and if they answer them take the time to think them out and answer them, then you create a pattern. So you can see for like on a chart, and I can maybe show, I don't have one printed out, but I have the one in the back of the book with me right now. And I don't know how well this shows up. But you can see maybe if I pull that in a little bit, can you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so you can see that chart. And so, someone's like, well, where do I start? I go, you got to take a look at what your pattern is. And, and you can take this, this is a really good tool for someone to take with them and go to their doctor, because then they can advocate for themselves.
Oh, I love that.
So, and it's a workbook so that there's places in here that you can write notes, and there's ways to connect with me or somebody else who has that has the training to take a look at it. There's no question in there that is not related to something going on in your body. I had one of my endorsement people, a physician that I know, had cancer. And he said, before I had that cancer, I didn't have anything. And now he goes, Patricia, he goes, he said, he gave me such a nice compliment. He said, I don't think you missed anything, and so it's nice. He was like, I was so touched, but there's, there's the knowledge is power is only good when you're able to take it to the next step. And if you don't know what to do, that's why I gave people, when they got the book, an opportunity to reach out to me to say, like, okay, so what is it that I have to do? Where do I need to focus? And then you can decide what your next steps are based upon that.
Oh, that's cool. I love that.
It's very, yeah. And I've had people, who want to do detoxes, because I talk about detox also. But this isn't the book to determine if you're a candidate for a detox. This is the book to show you what your health snapshot is. And so you take the health snapshot, and then someone asked me if they wanted to do a detox. It depends upon what I would see on here and where I would tell them to go, because the liver, and all the stuff that's going on even right now, the liver has to process all this stuff, and it has to get rid of it. Mm-hmm. If it can't get rid of it, it takes it and it stores it in blood, brain, and bone. So if you think about all that system of the body that gets affected, and if it can't do that, when the body gets overwhelmed, it stores it in those places. So it doesn't kick it out into the intestinal tract, so you get rid of it.
Okay.
Because that's the idea of what the liver does on a regular basis. So when someone wants to detox, you don't want to purge. Because if your gut isn't healthy, then it recycles and goes back again. And if it keeps on overwhelming the body will start to congregate that in fatty tissue. So places that are fatty tissues for people are the sexual organs, like the ovaries, the uterus, the prostate, the omentum, the fat around the organs also. So you have to, it's like you've got to take a look at what's the pattern and where do I start? Where's my first step in order to take care of what I need to take care of? And then you can back off and you can start on that basic level and add things into it in targeted supplementation and looking at what kind of exercise is appropriate. Because some people who don't have the body style for certain exercise. Guys who are weightlifters, right? They're big and bulky. Mm-hmm. They're not runners. Runners have that really sleek body. They're light on their feet. They have a lot of red, what they call red fiber, like the thighs on the chicken. Our dark meat is what people have who are runners because they need the endurance. In the leg, and that's where most of the blood in the muscle is put together. So the concept of looking at health and looking at exercise, diet, proper sleep, good mental attitude, and a properly functioning nervous system are key components in order to go from, and where they lack is to fix that problem and then go on.
So you have a background in acupuncture. Where would that fit in?
I think acupuncture is so wonderful. So it's like if you think that it started like around 6th century BC, and the first needles were made out of jade. You're thinking I would never put a jade needle in my body. And so acupuncture, your body has circuitry in it. And the Chinese, the Chinese had a whole era where they dealt with heat-related problems and fever, like influenza and things like that. Mm-hmm. And they also had an era of time that they dealt with cold. So Chinese acupuncture can do, it ties it completes like if you're playing the game dot to dot. Oh. It's just like, I always tell people, it's like, if you're thinking, why does my foot relate back to my headache? And the reason why it is because there's a point in the liver, and a lot of headaches relate back to liver in Chinese medicine. There's a point to soothe the liver on the top part of your foot. And it all relates to one another with that.
So is that like a reflexology point or the end of a meridian
you can use it as a reflex point, but also the ends of the meridians are all either on your fingers or toes. Mm-hmm. And they say like if somebody, if somebody passes out, and they lose consciousness, the point is to squeeze your fingers in the toes and the tips and press just below your nose here to help somebody regain consciousness. That's a Chinese
cool.
medicine. That's a Chinese medicine thing. Or if you're driving, you know, as that hack for when you're driving long distance, you know, you can press on this point right here, you know, and massage it while you're driving down the road and wanting to keep your eyes open a little bit longer.
Oh, so like if you're tired, that wakes
Yeah,
you
if you're
up?
tired. Yeah, wakes you up. You
Oh.
figure if it, you know, it's worked. I just got done driving from Michigan back to Massachusetts, so I used that point for sure. And I did it in one stint. I wanted to get back here, so I would
How
get back to
many
all my stuff.
how many hours was that?
12.
Ooh,
You
wow.
know, yeah, and I have my dog too. So like when I stopped, I had to go walk him, and then and one of my rules for traveling distance like that is I take things that for there's I take I really up my supplements. So I take an antioxidant just before I leave, and then I'll take an antioxidant like 2 hours after that, you know, for brain alertness.
Mm.
And then I take I use Young Living essential oils. So they have a thing called nitro, and I take a shot of that before I travel, you know, and then I don't drink coffee on the way. And so if I need another kind of feeling like something, but it usually lasts me like 3 or 4 hours. So I don't get tired driving anymore.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
I never drive that far, but that is awesome. So what tips would you give people like right now in the middle of all that we're experiencing with this pandemic? Like what tips would you say that people could actually use and apply to their life today to help them through this time?
Well, one thing is, you know, I think I told you just before we started, I was in Chicago. And the women who I was meeting in Chicago, we met because we have an interest to put on a women's conference to help women do better self-care before this outbreak really happened. And so, you know, having people really pay attention to what kinds of foods that they eat. If you look at the diet, if you look at the 5 facets, if you having the right kind of foods, and like avoiding things like sugars, and having the right kind of foods like brothy things. So when I was there, I started to feel like I was getting a cold. She came back from 2 events, being in Cancun, San Diego, and on a plane, and I met her that night, and she was like starting to get sick. And so, you know, and then I was helping her with how to get past that food-wise. And when she didn't listen to me, she got congested and she got really tired. And as when you start to do that, I always say starve a cold, feed a fever. And, you know, it was harder for her to digest food because she was already exhausted, you know, from that trip. So by the 3rd day, I started to feeling that achy kind of feeling. And I luckily, because I forgot all my, you know, like my tools to bring with me other than my adjusting tools as a chiropractor. And I ended up taking activated charcoal. I had it with me, and I took activated charcoal. I left her place at 3 o'clock. I said, I'm out of here. I'm leaving early tomorrow morning. I'm just going to go back, rest, take a bath, hang out, watch a movie. And so I had activated charcoal. I took one every 2 hours while I was awake that night. And I would say that I was certain I was not going to feel that great to drive from Chicago back to Michigan, which is a 5-hour drive. But I woke up the next morning and I felt like 85-90% better.
Oh,
And
cool.
so I took another charcoal, because what charcoal does is it acts like flypaper for toxins,
Yeah.
you know, and it helps your intestinal tract, you know, get the toxins out of that system. So you have more bowel movements? Yes, but you shouldn't have diarrhea. If you have diarrhea, then you took too much of it and you just back it off. But I've been taking it ever since then. Like when I get up in the morning, I take it with my supplements, and I take it also at the end of the day. Yeah, and I've also used it beforehand, like when I went out and had dinner with my friends, and I ate stuff that I don't normally eat. You know, I would take a charcoal. When I got home, I would take charcoal and go to sleep, you know, and but it's a very cool health hack for that purpose.
And yours comes in pills?
Yeah, mine comes in pills. I
Oh,
buy it
okay.
from, you know, I don't know if I can, the company that I used where I buy that is called Peak Performance. And I found that, I get it, I buy it on Amazon. I buy it quick, I get it and I take it. But I can tell you the difference. And then by the time I got to Detroit, because all I drank was water on the way going and flushed my system out. By the time I got to Detroit, 5 hours later, I was 100%.
Wow.
And I've been 100% since then.
That is a good health hack. I like that.
It's a great health hack. And the other thing I did when I did that is, you're familiar with tapping, right? A lot of people are familiar with tapping. So where to tap for this? Your adult immune system is underneath the manubrium, and the manubrium is just, if you go to the base of your neck and bring your finger down, there's that little like latch.
Shelf, yeah.
That bone is your manubrium, and underneath it is where the thymus is, and that's your adult immune system. And the other part in Chinese medicine is like the belly button. So simultaneously, I don't want to make a bunch of noise, but simultaneously, I would pop like 30 taps in the morning and at night. And the day that I took the supplements, the charcoal, I did it every time I took a piece of the charcoal. Because I just wanted to wake my body up and go like, hey, this is not okay. And you got to make a decision, like, I don't want to get sick. So it's just like, with that mindset, how your body approaches things it has a underneath message in your system that reads it for you. Like, don't go over here. Listen to your intuition, and don't go over here. Like, don't do stupid stuff, and that's probably like, those are the two big things. Plus drinking lemon and water. I had a mentor in chiropractic school. I used to get sick all the time. I used to get colds that lasted, like what everyone was talking about, like in January that they had. When I start to get something like that, I get water, filtered water, pH of 7, or whatever I can find if I'm traveling. I don't always have that option. And I'll put enough lemon juice in it so I can't see through it. And I sit there and I drink that, and I just flush my system out. And a lot of times, instead of having a bad cold where it goes from my nose and then to my lungs and then stays there and then comes back up and does a cycle, I now only have stuff like that maybe 1 night, 2 nights, 3 nights, and then I'm done with it. But that, and I get adjusted.
Yeah.
I go out every day. Fresh air is really important. And the influenza that happened in 1918, they discovered, they started taking people. They didn't have room. So they took people and they were leaving them outside. And they found that people that had more exposure to air, recovered easier. So having some fresh air every once in a while and getting the stale air out of your house is a good, it's a nice little health hack too. And you can dry brush. Dry brush clears out your lymphs. You can start at your feet and go up, get a nice boar's head bristle brush, just for, to increase your circulation, and the other big thing that I've ever told people was to go get miso soup. Because we talked a little bit about her not being able to digest her food. Right. And like having it be more difficult. She could digest it. It was just going to be more difficult, which made her more congested, more tired. And so if you're kind to your intestinal tract when something like that's going on, besides what I already said, you can make miso soup, never bring it to a boil, put the miso in to taste, take whatever vegetable is that you got in your kitchen, throw it in the pot, let it simmer, let it cook. And then when the vegetables get tender, take it and ladle it into a food processor or something, or a blender, blend it. But you need a little bit of oil. So I'd tell, avocado oil, butter even, sour cream, something on the top of it just to bring it up, and then eat that. And only eat that.
So what's in the miso? Why miso soup?
Well, I read a story years ago about, Nagasaki and Hiroshima, and they claimed in that article that people who followed the traditional Japanese diet after that had less effects from the fallout of the radiation. How true it is, I don't know, but I bought it at the time, and I've done it, And so when I started to get sick, so I make the miso soup, and I thought I put lettuce in it. I put whatever looks like it should go in, and so I put it in, and then I, make it, blend it, and I drink it. And a lot of times I'm feeling between the other things that I've done, I feel really good. And because it's the same kind of consistency of like, what does it take out of your system? Because you want to still get and the reason why you put it in a blender is because A, it's easier to digest. And so you're increasing the surface density of the vegetable that you're eating. So you get better micronutrients out of it.
Oh, better absorption.
Yeah, better absorption. It's a very cool thing.
Wow, that's cool. I have some
Yeah.
bone broth cooking in my kitchen right now.
Awesome. I'm coming over.
Yeah, it's going to take a while.
Yeah, I know.
But no, I love bone broth, and I
Mhm.
do the same thing. I like to cook the vegetables after I make the broth, and then you put it in the blender to make like a bisque. But I
Mhm.
didn't know
Yeah.
why it worked so well, but now I do. So the increased
Mhm.
surface area helps with absorption. That's a cool hack.
Yeah, it is a cool hack. That's, the French do that. When you go, and that's where I learned that original process is my ex-husband was French. So every time we made soup, if they made like a certain like vegetable soup, they'd always blend it. And I asked him why they blend it. And he goes, think about it, like when you're eating it. So it's just like, it's just a lot easier to digest and you don't have to do a lot of chewing. And when you don't feel good, you don't like to chew, right? Just,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
want to sleep, wake me up when this is all over.
Wow,
And that
that's
and
cool.
and, and then drinking enough water. You got to being hydrated is so important. It's
Hmm.
it's super super important. And staying warm.
Yep, I'm
Good
I'm a
deal.
big water hacker. I drink a lot of water, and I do what you said with the lemon. I do a half a lemon and a teaspoon of salt every morning when I get up with my 16 ounces of water. That's
Hmm.
just like a chug-a-lug thing I do. But now I'm going to go pick all my lemons and make some more lemon juice to
Yeah.
just drink throughout the day.
You can use cider vinegar also.
Ugh, I can't handle that.
I know. I know. I'm just saying, just in case somebody, doesn't like lemon and they they gravitate more towards vinegar. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm a lemon person also. And
yeah.
you've had enough lemon. I had an experience years ago, and where I decided I had enough lemon because when I was breathing, I could actually smell the lemons coming out of my breath.
Oh,
And I went, okay, I need to cut back it down in that. So
oh,
it's
that's
good.
awesome. I have a Meyer. I
Yeah,
have two Meyer lemon trees, and I just love them.
I love Meyer lemons. They are
Oh,
my favorite
they are
for
so
sure.
good. So I'm curious more about about the energy and all of that stuff. So I was told that a lot of energetic distortions that somebody that had acupuncture skills could clear those distortions, or there's other ways to do it, that could manifest itself into physical ailments. Is that
Well,
part of
I
your
can.
training?
Um, and yes, but like when you're looking at where those physical ailments, when I've done acupuncture on somebody, I don't do traditional acupuncture. For needling, yes, but my analysis is different. I always go through the emotions first, and I clear the emotion and find what particular acupuncture point needs to be needled in order for to and before you can continue on and address what's really going on because the
Oh,
emotional component's got to go away or else people keep on going back to it like something triggers that off. It's like someone cuts you off and you get mad and you realize that you don't realize where that how that behavior affects internal things going on with you, like your digestion, where there are blocks. You have pain in your leg. Well, it's the stomach meridian, gallbladder meridian, kidney, they all, bladder and um, kidney and bladder, and there's a spleen, a meridian all go through the leg. So it's just like that all has to relate to digestion. That's why I think when people first have the feeling like I'm getting sick is why they feel it across here because all those organ meridians cross right behind your neck, right below it. And all those organ systems are down in your legs. So you feel your calves, and they feel like achy and that. And it's also the most superficial meridian in the body is the small intestine, which is on the arm, and the
oh,
urinary bladder, which is on the back of the legs. They're the most superficial. So those are the first two organ systems that get affected by wind, what they call evil wind, whether it's moist, cold or hot, and invading the body. And also something that's an interesting thing is when in Chinese medicine, when you when you're starting to get sick, your mucus is clear. When it's kind of now white, we know that progression is like it's now white. So the best time to approach that is to get the mucus that when it's clear to get it to stop, because that's your window of opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
When you go into it starts to get white and kind of cloudy, then it's either inside or outside. So that means interior or exterior. So if it's clear, it's more on the outside. And if it's dark, the darker it is, the more interior it is. So by the time it's green, you're talking like green represents in Chinese medicine liver, basically. And so then you know that that's really, really deep. So it's going to take a lot more time to help somebody with a deeper issue.
Wow.
But just as for gauging, like when you start getting, we all know that because we all have had a cold. We all know that it's clear, then it gets cloudy, then it gets yellow, then it gets green.
Yeah.
And then your body as your body gets hotter, it cooks the phlegm. So that's why it congeals.
Oh, interesting.
So they are people always ask me, starve a cold and feed a fever, or feed a fever and starve a cold. And I always say starve a cold, feed a fever. Because you want that heat to get that microorganism ixnate out of there or work through your system by some of the health hacks we already talked about.
Oh, cool. And
Very
the
cool.
emotion, though, is the overlying thing that you have to get rid of first. So how do you do that?
Well, you can do it through muscle testing. You can do it, I've been told that I'm an intuitive healer. So when I have my hands on somebody, sometimes when I'm with somebody, I've asked people like, so did you fall off a horse when you were 11 years old and hit your head on this side? They went like, how do you know that? I never told you that. And it's like, but I can see it. Like some of those things, sometimes it's just like a premonition that I have that you want to call a premonition. Or people who are like, I'll ask like, you ate like, really fatty food last night. So in Chinese medicine, you have the pulses in the tongue to help you diagnose that, and kinesiology, you can work on specific points that could also like signify that. So people who eat fatty foods usually have gallbladder points that I now know are gallbladder points. They cross over in kinesiology, and they tell you some of the basic same thing. So if somebody has an emotional component, like they can't get past themselves, when they get sick, it's like you just want to go take a hot Epsom salt bath and listen to binaural beats, for a half hour, and then we'll talk, and then being able to listen when someone has those issues, and go like, okay, so grief is associated with the lung. So when I hit somebody that I'm going, so what are you sad about? It's just, sometimes it's just very, very intuitive for me. And then just, okay, like talking about it sometimes is enough to be able to release that.
Wow, interesting.
And then get beyond that. When I had a client in Virginia Beach, and we were talking one day, she had this issue, like this patch on her leg that she had no clue where it came from. And she wanted to do a detox. I said, you're not a detox candidate. We first got to fix your gut. And so we were talking. So on the third time that we met, she was really edgy. And I just, I said to her, so what's going on? And she's going like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, blah, 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 And I said, so what's really going on? And so she said, well, da, 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 and I said, so I go, did you talk to your mother or your father? And she said, well, and she goes, I actually talked to my father. And I said, so right now, since I'm pushing you on this, because I go, it's not okay that you stay in your junk. You got to get past it. And you can't get past it if you stay there. So I'm giving you a ladder to come out of it. And I said, so who do I remind you of, your mother or your father? And she said, you remind me of my father.
Oh, how
and so
funny.
then we resolved that. But the difference was that when we looked at what that particular component was for her at that time, her health excelled. She had, on a metabolic detox questionnaire I have, she had like 148. You're a candidate to do detox on that, from 10 on, but you definitely need to do a detox at 55. She was 3 times the amount of the highest score.
Oh.
And so, and what we did is we never ended up going to that score. Like we went when we changed her diet and talked about like, the like blessing your food and like doing that like good positive PMA stuff, like positive mental attitude. She had, without doing anything else on her detox score, it went from 138, 148, something like that, down to 120. And then the next time it went to 60. And we didn't even work on doing detox. We just worked on fixing her gut.
That's so cool.
And it was such and I always ask people, to start out a session with them, I always ask, tell me something good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Let's start off on that foot. Tell me something good, and then we can move on.
Yeah.
So that's why, the one night when I woke up in the middle of the night and said, I have to write this book, that's where that I just listened to that thought process and then I took a quiz that I gave people to take, and they kept on missing parts of it. So I said, why didn't you answer this section? And they said, well, because I didn't understand it, Dr. Pat. And so I would ask them the question and then explain it to them. So I put my whole book in English so like an 11-year-old kid could take it, and be able to answer the questions so that they could get accurate information, so that they could advocate for themselves, know where their health is at right now, and they could make decisions about what their next best step was for them. Because then you can, with that information, it gives you all the tools that you need to say, I need to go here, I need to go there, or what kind of doctor should I go see for X, Y, and Z? If it's something bigger. Because and I never tell anybody to do something that I wouldn't do myself.
Oh, yeah.
That's, I know people who do that, but it's just like I've never done that with anybody that I've ever treated or had in conversation with. If I thought it was a bad idea, I just said, I think it's a bad idea. You should go do your research on it and let me know how it turns out. But I wouldn't do it myself.
Oh, yeah.
And
this guy came to me, I don't remember how long ago it was, and he's like, he's a marketing guy. He goes, I could totally help you blow up your business, blow up High Energy Girl, but you got to be non-keto. And I chewed on it for a minute because I was like, I can't do that. Like, this is my core of my being that I believed that I'm going to eat this way, for the near, I can't imagine not. And he said that to me, and I was like, yeah, no. Money
like
isn't
sayonara, sayonara, see you later. Peace of mind to me is more important than money.
Yeah.
And for sure. That is like one of the reasons why, I had a practice on Cape Cod for years, and I moved to Boston. And then I feel like I got one of those like messages that said, go to acupuncture school. And so I did. And when I went to go write this book, I asked a bunch of people, if I wrote this book, would you take it? Would you buy it? Blah, blah, blah. And I couldn't think of the right title for it. I had someone in my business group said to me, I'm not sick, I'm not fat, and I'm not tired. So why would I buy your book? And I said, wow. I said, thank you so much. Because I go, you always know if you're tired. Unless you're just really pushing it, but you know when you're tired, and when you're fat, basically. You can look in a mirror. You could have internal fat that you don't register, but looking in the mirror for most people, they can decide if they're fat or not, or they're gaining weight, and how their clothes fit them. But you don't know if you're sick. Mm-hmm. So in a lot of sicknesses and chronic illness and disease take a length of time, and it's different for everybody depending upon what somebody's DNA and how your DNA is responding to the environment. And so it takes that component to it. It's like, so you don't know if you're sick. I said, you should buy my book, and you should put it on your shelf so you can go back to it periodically, or at least once a year or twice a year, and just check in with yourself to see how well you're doing. Yeah. That would be important.
That's a good thing to say, because that's something I learned a long time ago. Like, the first sign of heart disease is a heart attack.
Yeah, 75% of men experience that. They usually die.
Yeah, the first sign of cancer is typically a tumor. But you've had those cells and that inflammation, in your body for a very, very long time before a tumor is formed or a heart attack takes place.
Oh, for sure. For sure. That's where they come back to the three things, the three T's that cause, the being sick is like, thoughts, right? Which is the huge one. Then funneling down, toxins, and then funneling down from that, traumas, which start at birth, and not getting them. That's why you go to a chiropractor, and to have that component. And that's why you would want a properly functioning nervous system, because that's what chiropractic delivers.
Yeah.
Also.
Yeah, I like chiropractic. It's funny. One of my clients who just graduated from my program, she'd had chronic back pain for 20 years. And when I first started working with her, the first thing I said is, you need to find a local chiropractor. And she's like, after all these years, nobody's ever said to do that. I said, I'm telling you, that's what I would do. And you know what? She did. And within I want to say maybe 6 weeks, her pain subsided so substantially after being pain ridden for 20 years.
Yeah, people change their lifestyle for pain, and they don't really realize it. So you have an incident that happens. Like, good posture is important, but when you have a whiplash scenario, and then what happens is your head slightly goes a little bit forward, and perhaps that's where it heals. So now you have 11 pounds, because your head usually weighs around 11 pounds, that you're carrying. So if you carry a grocery bag out in front of you, which usually is about 11 pounds, it kills you. It really just stresses that whole area out. And then especially for women, because we wear bras, we have straps going on here. We got straps in the back. So we always can throw shoulder issues into that scenario too. So let's look at how, things cascade down the spine. Because gravity goes down, doesn't go up, unless you have a trauma where you hit your feet from falling off a ladder or something. But when something's going down, it's going to look for your weakest link, and then it's going to look, and when that gets blocked, it's going to look for your next weakest link, because your body's always trying to move. So it was a great recommendation to give this woman, and a lot of people just don't realize there's a lot of different styles of chiropractic, and there's different ways to approach everything. I start at the feet for myself, and I work up. Because on that basis that gravity goes down, doesn't go up. So I want to get rid of what's going on in the feet and then follow it up, and chase it up the spine.
I like that. That's a really good one.
Yeah.
Love that. So how can people find you, find your book?
Well, they can find my book on Amazon. Is a good, easy source. It's on Barnes and Noble. It's on Amazon. It's Why Are You Sick, Fat, and Tired? Dr. Patricia Boulogne. And then there's, they can also get in contact with me through my website, which is healthteamnetwork.com. They can, I am very accessible. People can reach out to me. If they go to my website, they can book a time on my calendar, for just to get to know me, and chit chat with me. First 30 minutes are on me. And so that's at meetdrpat.as.me. So as me, / GAC, which is girlfriend, which GAC, G, girlfriend, A, apple, C, Kathy, or cat. That's ways that they can get in touch with me personally. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. I'm friendly. I'm approachable, and I really love to help people, especially women, really spark and excel in their health. And there's a lot of other health hacks I know. I've got a plethora of them for different things in different scenarios with people.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to read your book now. I'm really excited to see what my preliminary health score is.
Yeah, read it from the beginning, and I had a friend and a colleague take it, and she sent it to me. She goes, well, tell me what I should do. And I said to her, you can't go. She has major autoimmune issues. And I said, you can't have an unless she's taking other supplementation or drugs for digestion. You can't have a high immune score and not have a score in the gut area, because your gut is your immune system. They relate to each other. And I can easily explain that when I have someone's chart in front of me, and to go from point A to point C. And you got to equate, a lot of Western medicine diagnoses people when they have a flat tire. And these questions are questions that give you a clue that the air's out of the tire. And so that you can go in and say, like, okay, I've got an issue with this. I don't want this to become a high priority, because on the chart, it says low priority, moderate, and then high. So you don't want the low priorities to exceed. And likewise, just as another health hack for people to finish stuff off with, and when someone has blood work done and they have blood work and it's in the normal range, they're going cool. But if it's towards the high or towards the low part of normal, it's a small red flag. They should take a look at that. And see, like, well, what's going on? Because you don't want to wait for it to become
right.
like off the chart and the low side. You don't want to wait for it to become a crisis. And this book helps people not get in that crisis mode and fix the problem when they're looking at what that priority is. That's the low priority. And like, what do we do? There's a lot of things to do, and there's a lot of solutions out there. That makes sense.
Oh,
that
God,
makes sense.
I'm so excited to look at it, because everything you said today aligns with what I believe in. I just have, the only difference is what is that stuff? The black stuff, the charcoal is like it's a powder. So you put it in water in a powder, but I love the idea of getting a pill. So that's cool.
Well, the part of the pop of pills is that they also have a little bit of coconut in it. So, and it's just like for traveling, powder just does not work for me. When I take collagen and things like that, it just does not work for me for traveling. On that. I need a whole new car or a trailer for all those kind of bottles, stuff like that.
Oh, you're so cute. I'm so glad I finally got to meet you. Thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thank you very much. I appreciate being here. Thank you. Namaste.
Oh my gosh, I cannot wait to read her book now and to take her quizzes to see where I rate currently. So I do recommend heading on over to Amazon, checking out the book, and you can find all of the show notes on highenergygirl.com/show. Hope you enjoyed all this awesome information, and be well, girls. This podcast contains the opinion and thoughts of its host and guests. It is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subjects covered. All statements made on the podcast have not been evaluated by the FDA and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. If the listener requires professional assistance or advice, please contact your personal medical doctor. Both host and guest specifically disclaim any responsibility for any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence directly or indirectly of the use and application of any of the contents of these episodes. Like I said, this is my opinion and I could be wrong.